I'm live. I love this. This is great. I am going to give you my walkaway story. It's kind of funny because it's a truly what it is a walkaway from the Democratic Party, which is kind of. I wish it wasn't that. I wish it was not walk away from a particular political party because uh, in the past the Republicans have a lot had a lot to offer, and the Democrats. There wasn't a necessarily a bad party or a good party. There was bad things about the Democrat Party, and so historically, um, the Democrat Party was the party of slaves. Now, I'm not saying I'm pulling into that Dinesh D'Souza thing. What I'm just saying is that that's just history, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the Democrat Party was always the party of the KKK or any of that. I don't know. I don't think so. They were just simply states' rights party, and they're Democrat Party. That word is significant, and it's kind of funny because the Republican Party is turning more into what the ideal Democrat Party is, which is a populist party. Then the populism is taking over, and uh, but this is about me and my thing. So my walkaway story isn't necessarily walking away from the Democrat Party. I hope someday that they can become the party of the people again and be a populist party, because I'm a populist, I guess. I believe that the people, what we need is important. That's just logic. And so anyway, uh, my walkaway story is not your typical walkaway story because by the time I got old enough to vote, Reagan was already president. And so things are not as bitter and divided now as they were back in the day. You would have a discussion, every once in a while you have a staunch Republican or an outspoken, there's always loudmouths out there. So that there's people that are loudmouths about politics, and especially about Nixon. But I think a lot of Republicans also didn't were mad at Nixon. So everybody was mad at the Vietnam War, and everybody was mad at Nixon. Because he kind of prolonged the Vietnam War too long, I guess. But Johnson's kind of the guy that got us into it. And it's a long story. He was a Democrat, so there you go. Johnson was a warmonger too, and Kennedy was setting us up for that pretty much too. It was part of the Cold War strategy, so that's just the way it goes. See, that's not really one particular party that's at fault for it. It was just that one guy was a Democrat that was the one that was the guy that started it, I guess. I mean, so it's like we see things all like ideologically now and divided now. And so I never was divided like that. I never was on that side or this side of things until if I was more ideological or divisive in the history, I would have to say it was being a Republican, that I was more pro-Republican for most of the time that I could vote. But from the time I was about 5 years old, I was definitely on the side of the left till about the time I was probably in my mid-20s, I guess. Definitely on the left, and in some ways, I still am on the left. I consider America to be on the left. You got to understand your history correctly. What right wing and left wing is basically the right wings are the Tories, the people that are in favor of the uh, royalty and the what do you call that? The system. The system where you have the people at the top and then the people at the bottom, and all that, a class system. That came from England, and they just had one side that was this side and the other. So the terms, all the words have been stretched around, right's left, left's right. Everything's all backwards now. It's so confusing. So, and I don't want to say walk away from the Democrat Party, but let's just say that right now, currently, the Democrat Party represents nothing of what I believe. And at one time, the Democrat Party probably represented more of what I believed. And I may actually even go so far to say that I, to this day, going back, am not necessarily diametrically opposed to the Democratic Party. I might have actually, even today, going back in history, might have actually been the same pretty much way. It just it was just different in those days. It wasn't so divisive. You did sit there and think, okay, should I vote for Democrat? Should I vote Republican? In fact, the parties are not really important. It was the people and what they had to say, and they were just in this party, and it wasn't left and right, you know. And so anyway, so that makes it confusing, and I have to explain that because I walked away from the Democratic Party um, around 90 when Bill Clinton was running for president. I definitely was against Bill Clinton, and when Bush became president was when I'm starting to kind of get a little disillusioned with not the Republican Party, but with Bush, you know. And then when he ran against Clinton, I was just disillusioned with that. And so I started to see that the both parties have major issues, you know, that there's corruption in both of them. And so I there's corruption in both parties. That's why I just not walk away from the Democrats. That's partisanship. I don't like that, you know. But the current Democratic Party is a shambles, and it is a joke, and it doesn't represent anything that I believe. And I walked away from the Democrat Party. That's a fact. That's a fact. I used to be a pro-Democrat person. I was in favor of Carter. I was a Carter Democrat. Okay, so that's who I am. I should have said that from the get-go. And so Carter believed in peace in the Middle East. He believed in biggest thing I was about was the ozone and all that. Like, you know, I was concerned about the ozone hole, and I was concerned about pollution in general, and I was seeing progress in that area, so I was happy. I wasn't, those people, you know, those big corporations are so evil and all that stuff. I was like, no, they're actually doing a pretty good job of following the laws, and the laws are working. They're really strict laws. You have to go get your car smugged. I didn't like the red tape. I didn't like the stress of getting tested and how much it costed and all that. You know, it's a pain in the butt, and I don't like the, you know, DMV and all that whole hassle is such a pain in the butt, you know. But I've always been an environment, and still to this day, I'm the same guy that I've always been. Who would not be for peace? Who would not be for a good environment? Who would be against racism? I'm against racism, big time. Okay, let me go back and talk about why I was so far left, such a leftist. I'm so sorry for being such a leftist. Not at all. I mean, I kind of bought into the garbage you know, in the late 80s. It was coming out, and some of that was just total garbage, and I bought into it. And the ozone thing might be total garbage, you know. But basically, the idea is that I always never been a racist, and now they're calling you a racist because you're a Christian. You know, that's kind of what my story is all about. Is I walked away from the Democrat Party because it started to persecute Christians, basically. And the abortion issue, I didn't really hold it to the Democrats so much because I wasn't really sure myself about it. I really wanted to think about that one a lot, and I wasn't really sure about it for a while. And I want to be damn sure I was right, you know. And the point where I was damn sure that I was right was about 10 years ago. What happened was I was thinking, they're talking about third trimester abortion and all that stuff, and they start talking about pain, you know, that the baby can feel pain. And I say, that's a really dangerous road to go down. What that's saying is, if you want to kill off all the Jews, all you have to do is just make sure it's not painful, then it's okay. That's exactly what you're saying when you talk about pain and brutality and all that. I don't like the brutality. I don't like to talk about that. That's not what it's about. As far as brutality goes, life and pain is nothing, people get pregnant and have babies. You want to talk about pain? If that was the issue, then you shouldn't have any. Women should totally be able to have an abortion, because they're going to feel a lot more pain than that little fetus does for a little split second where he does something, snips his spine or something. He's just dead. It doesn't feel any pain. And sorry, but that's just the way I feel. So I don't mean to offend anybody. I'm not trying to be offensive to anybody, but that's just my opinion. I'm a very opinionated guy. Anyway, it's not about that. It's about the human potential. But at any rate, I was pro-life, but I was pro-women, and I was pro-women's rights. And so I left it to the women to decide. I wanted them to vote on it, and I wanted to encourage the women to vote pro-life, and that was my stance. And but that strategy did not work. I got confronted by a lady that was pro-life back in 87, 86. I was pro-life long before I was conservative. And then, so that was an issue that the Democrats were in favor was, and I flipped over on the other side, and she confronted me and said, "It's your responsibility." She said, "Do you believe that babies are human lives?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "And then it's your responsibility to protect the life, and our government's primary responsibility to protect life. It's in the Declaration of Independence. It doesn't need to be in the Constitution. It says these truths are self-evident, in the Declaration of Independence." So, that's what the Constitution is based on, is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they had to come up with a sketch of how they're going to pursue that goal. That's the way I look at it. You can also look at the Federalist Papers, but that's another topic. So, so that was my story. Basically, a gradual realization. And I would say that maybe it was on the wrong side of things for a while. Maybe I was too much in favor, like too much blind about Bush 2 and Bush 1. Didn't realize who they really were, maybe. Maybe Clinton was. Looking back, I'm thinking, you know what? Clinton actually was better than Bush. And Bill Clinton, I'm talking about. What can I say? But you could actually say that's true. And the same thing goes for Mitt Romney, or not Mitt Romney. I think Mitt Romney is better than Barack Obama, but John McCain. John McCain was really bad. Really bad. Traitor, and yeah, I voted for John McCain, and that was, I think I made a mistake. I should have voted for Obama or someone else. That doesn't mean I loved Obama's presidency, because first thing, he was a communist, so that was not very comfortable at all. But then when he got reelected, I was like, you guys are so stupid. We should have Mitt Romney. And then and also, Obama's not about as bad as I thought he was going to be. I knew he was going to be rotten. So anyway, so basically what happened was, it was a gradual thing. And the main thing that makes me completely reject that, just throw it in the trash. There's no Democrat Party left. That's just a joke. Is the attacks on what they call the far right, moral majority people, the people that believe in the moral majority. That was like the Rush Limbaugh and Bush era type of thing. It was like, we believe that most people are moral, and that was the majority of the people, and we could still run America the right way. And so it was Christians and religious people, and we still have that to this day, and but everything's been so divided, it's tragic. And that division really pushed me away from them. And I can't really give you a date of when, but I tell you, I was totally against Bill Clinton. Ever since Bill Clinton, I've always been a Republican and hated all the Democrats, and they're with good reason. By the time Bill Clinton became president, the Democrats were just completely infiltrated by all kinds of corrupt people. And you're going to find out someday what happened. The only thing was, it was a one-sided thing with me, because the Republicans also have tons of people that are corrupt, but the Democrat Party is gone completely. They've just gone completely. They're beyond redemption. They need to just stop the organization and start some other party or something. Now, we give a few more minutes talk about it. So I want to convince you out there to speak up. Your story might not be the same as mine, but just let me just simply break it down to one thing. You're going to see haters everywhere. Haters are going to hate. You're going to see Trump fans that are haters. You're going to see libertarians that are haters. You're going to see everybody that's haters. In fact, there's plenty of hate going on right now. So it's going to be hard to tell who's on the right side because of the hate. But look at how much hatred certain groups of people get away with. That's the question. Um, what can they get away with? And it's clear to me that there's a lot of criminal activity going on in America, and a lot of suppressive and a lot of anti-American, a lot of fascism going on, jackbooted fascism, where they just beat up people they don't believe in, and they can do this out in the streets in some cities, and nobody does anything about it. So that's a problem. If you're a populist, you truly are a Democrat, you shouldn't believe that these jackbooted thugs can go out there and just beat the heck out of people they disagree with, and you shouldn't think that slandering people is everybody you disagree with, and getting away with it. It's out in the open. It's on the media. Whoever's doing all this slander, it's all on one side. It's the Democrat Party, and now I will say that the current Democrat Party is the enemy of America. And that didn't used to be that even 10 years ago, 15, until Obama. When Obama became president, it was obvious that we had gone down a really bad road of destruction. And so we need to try to reason with people, try to be reasonable, and keep your head above the water. Don't be partisan in the sense of, uh, I this party's bad, this party's good. But it's clear to me that the Democrat Party is. So I truly have walked away from them, even though I never had the opportunity to vote Democrat because I was too young to vote for not Clinton, for Jimmy Carter. But I wanted to say, as far as my background goes, um, totally liberal, still am to this day believe what I believe. Um, my vice principal of my elementary school was a black man. Black. This is 1970. There was racism in 1970 when I was a kid. I was a racist when I was 5 years old. Why was I racist? Because I heard that word, the N word, and I heard a lot of bad things about black people, and I was just a gullible kid. At some point in time, somebody influenced me and pushed me in the right direction. And I have to give credit to where credit's due. It was Mr. Duncan. Mr. Duncan was an optimist. He was at the principal of my elementary school when I was in first grade, I think, or second. First grade, yeah. And he went out to the kids to mingle with them so they would see a black person, first of all, because a predominantly white school. And then also the kids could see a black man. I think I knew what he was up to. And he wanted to get to know the kids, and so they wouldn't be afraid of him and stuff like that. And so I saw Mr. Duncan. I'm seeing a black man, and I'm seeing that he's the principal of our school. They're like, that's the principal. I'm like, a black man is our principal. I had to deal with that little dilemma there because now I'm told when I'm a kid to respect authority. And I'm also kind of influenced by certain people that black people are something's not right about them. And so here I see this man, he's dressed up just wonderfully, really well dressed man. And I guess that's a stereotype. Black people know how to dress up good. So he's really stylish, dressed a really nice suit and stuff. And probably one of the best dressed people I've ever met. I mean, it was just like, wow. And then at that time, and then I saw him, and he's smiling, happy guy. And I thought, well, if this guy's happy, he's got joy in his heart, then he's a good guy. Yeah, it was that easy. And he was my principal, and I was going to respect him and love him. And so he came over to where we're sitting, and I said, "Hi, Mr. Duncan." And he said, "Hi, how are you doing today? It's a nice day, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You guys just resting after playing?" He's talking with us. And I said, "Yeah." And then I was really like uncomfortable in a way, but I was like, I could see he was a nice guy. So I was really polite to him. But he could see I was a little, he could see that I was a little uncomfortable. And so, uh, Mr. Duncan was smiling and knew what was going on exactly. And another kid came up and said, "I'm going to tell my mom that I need to change schools because we're not going to have any N word for our president." Hear that? We are not going to have a N word for our principal. That is called racism. And that I was 5 years old. And that was the world I was living in. There were people like this everywhere. And other kids would not go near him, were afraid of him. I saw kids walking away. I could tell it was an intense situation. And this is right when all this is happening, the right when the thing. And so he started talking, and I didn't understand exactly what he was saying. But now I kind of get what he was trying to say. Some of the things he was saying, he smiled at me, but then he kind of like said something to one of the other kids, kind of under his breath. He didn't want to make a scene. I think so. He didn't want to confront the kid or say anything bad about the kid, but he wanted to explain to us what was going on. And so he said, um, he goes, uh, he goes, things are going to get so much better. And he said that, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. You guys are good kids, and you're going to have a great future. He was just like that, like a good principal, but he was saying everything's going to be all right. We're going to be, and he said, Martin Luther King has made it possible for us uh, uh, to live in peace, in peace. And that was amazing that this man understood uh, Martin Luther King's real message, because the message we think about Martin Luther King is kind of like white man bad, stop racism at any cost, fight racism. But the way uh, Mr. Duncan thought, and I think the way Martin Luther King thought was, no, we just need to show those people that there were real people, be patient with them, and get into positions of power and infiltrate our society, blend in with society, and not be so mean to white people. And see, this is how it was before many years. It was the whites against the blacks. It was like that. And it was hard for black people to love white people because they could see how evil they were, what the racists were, and they were suspicious of white people. And I don't blame them. A lot of bad things happen. People get accused of rape and stuff. It was nasty, nasty stuff going on. You could write books and books about it. And so this racism was horrible, and it was a two-way thing. And that's the thing that people don't understand. Once you kind of do something bad to somebody, somebody's got to retaliate, and it becomes a vicious cycle, racial division. And so that's what Martin Luther King, I think, saw, was that in order to stop this cycle, they would have to prove that they were Christians. They would have uh, to uh, express this dream to the white people that we'd get along. That's, just think about how amazing that is, because a white man did not say this stuff. He's the guy. This is a guitar pick, by the way. I play guitar. Um, White people did not say this. They were not the ones that pushed for this. Uh, that I remember, and at least Martin Luther King got all the credit for that. That is, I mean, fascinating uh, individual person, and a great message. I mean, I can't think of a better message than that. He must have got something from Gandhi or Jesus, or obviously from Jesus, but also there's a lot of other things going on, conflicts that were happening in modern times that people had done things about, like Gandhi, peaceful protest and things like that. And so the hippies were peacefully protesting the war and peacefully, and the racism was, and I was one of those people. After that event, I saw the light. I saw that war was not really good. There's a lot of bad things going on. I started to see there was a lot of bad things going on in this world and that we were changing. Imagine that, being from a generation where you're a kid and you're seeing, as you grow up and mature, you're seeing America change. The only sad thing is that during this process, there was an opposition that were people on the right, that were on the conservatives side, that were instigating racial hatred still, KKK and all that. They were instigating stuff. And then there's people on the left that were Marxists that adopted, they didn't like this peace stuff. They wanted a radical takeover of our country. They embraced Marxism. And that's where we're at right now, is that the Marxists infiltrated the racial movement, which is a peace movement of getting along with people. And, it's funny how, what's this guy's name? Rodney King. His last name was King, the guy that got beat up by the cops. And he said, can't we all just get along? What a statement, that profound statement. And he must have been saying something about what King was. I mean, this is so profound, because what I'm saying to you is that the black people, they didn't bellyache. They did something about it. They stopped racism. And it wasn't the white people that did that. We just were already tired of it. So anyway, it looks like my stream's crazy right now, so I'm going to end it. But anyway, so that's the thing. It's about love and peace, and I wish we could get back to that, but it's so hard when you're being attacked for just what you believe, and and just being who you voted for, and their president of the United States is under great attack, and all the terrible. Our country's being overthrown by bad actors, and that's sad.